Han Sen was excited to hear the news. Where there was a nest, there was an egg. Maybe he even had a chance at a super beast soul, which was crucial to him at this stage. After learning what had happened, Han Sen became more cheerful. It was the Son of Heaven gang that discovered this nest first. However, after Son of Heaven and his henchmen evolved and entered Second God's sanctuary, their gang was not what it used to be. It had become a second-class gang at this point. Currently, the strongest three forces were the Steel Armor Gang, the Fist Gang, and the Disciples. The Steel Armor Gang was backed by the Special Squad and recruited a lot of military school students randomly assigned to the Steel Armor Shelter. Therefore, Steel Armor Gang remained the strongest in the shelter. The Disciples was something established by Yuan and King. With many good men on their team, they were only second to the Steel Armor Gang. Many of the leaders of the Fist Gang had also evolved and left. Littlefinger was the only one who was managing the gang at this point. With some fresh blood, the gang was still considered top 3 in the shelter, but it was not as strong as before. Although the Son of Heaven gang was the first to discover the nest, they did not gain any benefits after entering the nest. Instead, they suffered a great loss. According to the survivors, there were at least 1,000 creatures in the nest, some of which were sacred blood creatures. After getting the news, Young Manly organized the Steel Armor gang to march toward the nest, and on behalf of the Special Squad, Han Sen also brought Gambler and the other 2 Special Squad members. At this point, the Special Squad was basically constituted of new people, except for Han Sen and Gambler. When they reached the nest, the Disciples and the Fist Gang had also arrived. A bunch of people stopped at the center of the Life Lotus, and none dared to enter first. Seeing Han Sen, Yuan, King, and Littlefinger said, "Hi, brothers, we cannot stand here forever. How about we set some rules?" Yuan said with a smile. "What kind of rules?" Littlefinger replied. Since the Fist Gang was the weakest at the moment, he did not want any conflicts. Yuan thought about it and said, "How about we do a lucky draw to decide which group shall enter the nest first? It will be all about luck." "Agreed," said Littlefinger. No one had any different opinions. Yuan then suggested Han Sen make the lots, to which everyone else agreed. Since they all knew who Han Sen was, no one believed he would be playing tricks. To be fair, Han Sen, who was responsible for making the lots, had to draw after everyone else. In the end, the one lot left for Han Sen said he should go in the last, after all 3 other teams. This case, Han Sen had no one to blame but his own luck. The other teams thought Littlefinger would spend at least hours in the nest. However, their team emerged from the entrance with several people hurt and several people missing. The rest looked at the team in surprise, and King asked Littlefinger what happened. Littlefinger cursed, "The Sons of Bitch Gang are horrible people. They attracted the attention of God knows how many creatures. A whole lot of mutant creatures and sacred blood creatures are blocking the way. Since it was very narrow, we could only go one at a time, and no one could fight off so many advanced creatures alone, so we had to come back. What bad luck. It is blocked. Let's go and have a look." Yuan did not believe the creatures were so strong that people could not enter. Yuan and King's team went back even faster than the Fist Gang. However, they were clearly in better shape. Everyone was back, and they were only slightly injured. Damn the sons of bitches. It is completely blocked. We can't even tell how many creatures are inside. And the path is so narrow, muttered King after he came back. If the nest had never been entered before, they could still choose to slowly kill off the creatures. However, at this point thousands of creatures were blocking the path, which meant the first person going down would walk into an ambush. Everybody looked to Han Sen. Han Sen had the least people, only 3 team members and himself. "Let's go there and check it out," Han Sen smiled and said to Gambler. Gambler and the other teammates nodded and followed Han Sen down the nest. After going through the winding path, the Special Squad soon arrived at the wall of green gold, which was already broken. Several Z-steel shields were put up to block the broken part of the wall. The thick fields were all deformed from attacks, which looked frightening. Through the gaps, they could still see lots of creatures jostling. Many claws had reached out from the gaps. Seeing the 4 people, all the creatures near the shields started to screech and knock on the shields, which were about to be shattered. No wonder none of them went inside. This is goddamn mission impossible. Gambler shook his head after seeing what was behind the wall. Damn those sons of bitches. The 2 new members at the Special Squad, Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingyu, looked frightened as well. Han Sen, let's go back now. There is no way we can go farther. We have to wait for the creatures inside to come out, and by then we can kill them slowly. Afterwards, maybe we can find a chance to go in, said Gambler. Alright, you guys go back. I can go inside alone, decided Han Sen. Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingyu widened their eyes and said, Captain, that is too dangerous. Han Sen smiled and said, although it is dangerous now, there is a chance to break the egg. After the creatures rushed out, everybody would have a chance at the egg then. Just go back to the entrance, I will take a look inside, and if it doesn't work, I would retreat as well. Han Sen, I should go with you. It is too dangerous. Gambler gritted his teeth and said, that's okay, I can do it alone. There are too many creatures inside, and I would be more efficient alone. I'll be back in a while after I break the egg. Han Sen then summoned the Sacred Blood Phantom Ant Armor and 3-blade harpoon. Seeing that Han Sen was determined, Gambler did not say anything. However, he insisted on waiting for Han Sen at the wall so that it would be safer for Han Sen to come back. Han Sen nodded and cut the Z steel stick supporting the shields. The shields were immediately pushed away by the fierce creatures. Han Sen waved his harpoon and beheaded a creature coming at him, its blood flowing like a stream. Han Sen kicked the dead creature in the head and its body blocked the creatures coming after him, making some space for Han Sen to squeeze himself inside. Will Captain be fine? Zheng Kai swallowed and asked. There were so many creatures that even with the protection of sacred blood armor, safety will not be guaranteed. Relax. He is a prudent fellow and would never do something that he is not certain of. Since he dared to go, he could definitely make it. Having spent a lot of time with Han Sen, Gambler knew Han Sen best. If Gambler did not want to evolve with his sacred Geno points maxed out, he would have gone to Second God's Sanctuary a long time ago. In fact, Gambler did not believe too much in his own words. There were simply too many advanced creatures that he saw more than 30 mutant creatures and a sacred blood black spirit at a glance. Gambler was not sure about the level of the creatures he did not recognize, so there might be more sacred blood creatures. Seeing Han Sen besieged by sacred blood creatures, Zhu Qingwu said with his voice shaking, "It is too risky." Captain did not even know what was going on inside. No one could tell how many sacred blood creatures there were. As they spoke, Han Sen had already disappeared in the group of creatures. His team members could only tell their captain was still fighting from the roaring of the creatures. "Don't just stand there. There are creatures coming out, fight them off," Gambler exclaimed and slashed his weapon at a creature coming toward the path. The risky situation in others' eyes was like a walk on the beach for Han Sen. Wherever he went, blood would bloom like flowers. One creature after another fell under his three-blade harpoon. Nothing could touch him other than the splashing blood. Golden Rockworm King was summoned by Han Sen, which was already as large as a tank. Opening its mouth, the worm swallowed all the creatures Han Sen killed. Although the Golden Rockworm King had not transformed yet, its shell was so hard that even a mutant creature could not hurt it. Except for its bean-sized eyes, it did not have any Achilles heel. It could only get hurt when a sacred blood creature launched an attack directly at it. In the beginning, Gambler, Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu felt some pressure trying to stop the creatures from coming at the path, but gradually they found that the creatures no more came their way. When they looked inside, they saw a person covered in blood slaying away in the group of creatures, with piles of bodies stacked next to his feet. The devil-like figure was imprinted in Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu's minds. They would never forget about what they saw. They were new members of the special squad and had never seen Han Sen in a combat. The only time they saw Han Sen showing his strength was with the boomerang. When they just joined the special squad, rumor had it that Han Sen became the head of the special squad because of nepotism. Many said he had some special relationship with King Xuan. For the time they had entered God's Sanctuary, they had never seen anyone killing creatures like this. Han Sen was slaughtering the creatures as if they were chickens. The slaughter was so thrilling that even Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu wanted to join him and feel the heat of the blood on their skin. Suddenly, they saw the sacred blood murky beast throwing itself at Han Sen from his back. The murky beast looked like a cross between a lion and a tiger, with 2 heads and 3 tails, covered in steel-like feathers. "Captain, watch." Before Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu could finish their words, they suddenly froze. Han Sen moved as fast as electricity. Grabbing a lion-like head, Han Sen cut it off with the 3-blade harpoon. The slaughter continued. The creatures were killed by Han Sen one by one. He is becoming more and more awesome. Gambler leaned against the stone wall, lit a cigarette, and sighed. Gambler, has the captain always been so strong? Zheng Kai couldn't help asking. What should I say? I used to teach him things. Gambler inhaled deeply and blew a cloud of smoke. For real. Both Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu widened their eyes and could not believe that. Look at how he draws his weapon. You can't even tell where the weapon was hidden. This is called Sleeveblade, passed down in my family. If Han Sen were not a genius in martial arts, I would never have taught him my family secret. Luckily, he did not let me down, bragged Gambler, enjoying the worship in Zheng Kai and Zhu Qingwu's eyes. Gambler would never admit that he only taught Han Sen Sleeveblade for some dirty moves. Eventually, Han Sen had come to the egg. Looking at the giant egg, Han Sen slashed at it without hesitation, identifying Beast's soul. As Han Sen cleared away the remaining creatures absent-mindedly, he again witnessed the formation of a beast's soul, which turned out to be a long sword burning with black flames. Beast's soul identified. Sacred blood beast's soul devil sword gained. Others might celebrate this result, but Han Sen was slightly disappointed. Despite that a sacred blood beast soul was precious, what Han Sen needed was a super beast soul. Since he had come thus far, Han Sen decided to wipe clean all the remaining creatures. For once, the Golden Rockworm King could not eat anymore. Although there were mutant creatures left, it stopped moving around. Han Sen had been feeding the Worm King for a long time, but it was the first time he had seen the Worm King stopped eating, which amazed Han Sen. Huang Yulei and Zuzhu had waited for him for 2 days. They were about to give up since Han Sen was never online. This day when Zuzhu logged in, he sent another invite to a soldier on warship. This time, he did not hear the prompt tone of the system. Zuzhu quickly sent a voice message to Huang Yulei. Huang Yulei, the soldier is online. Where are you? Did he agree to fight? This time we must teach him a lesson, said Huang Yulei hurriedly. Zhu quickly sent Huang Yulei an invite to observe. Huang Yulei clicked yes and found himself on the stands of the Colosseum, and he was not alone. Huang Yulei was surprised to find someone else there, and he knew that person as well. Desperado, how come you're here as well? Huang Yulei quickly asked the person next to him. I was about to ask you the same thing, said Desperado. Zhu did not invite me. A soldier on warship is in my friend list. I saw him entering a fight and chose to watch. Huang Yulei was shocked and asked, how come you are his friend? Do you know him? Desperado was one of the more advanced evolvers in Ares Martial Hall. He was only second to Queen. If Desperado was the soldier's friend, then it was very likely that the soldier was also a big shot in Ares Martial Hall. No, I do not know him. I was only randomly matched with him a couple times. I added him because I found him interesting. Desperado then asked Huang Yulei, so what is this about? Huang Yulei did not answer but asked, this person is on your level. No wonder Huang Yulei was surprised. No evolver could beat Desperado in Ares Martial Hall, except for Queen. Desperado said he had fought the soldier several times, which meant the soldier was on the same level as Desperado. In this case, there was no way that Zhu could beat him. He is not. I was able to beat him each time in a very short amount of time. His fitness is just so-so, but... Desperado paused. But what? Asked Huang Yulei hurriedly. This person gave me a strange feeling. Even I was able to beat him easily, I did not feel good about the win. So I added him as a friend and wanted to see his other fights. Just now, I saw him entering a fight and chose to watch. I didn't realize that I would meet you guys here, said Desperado. With some reluctance, Huang Yulei explained his encounter with the soldier. What are you saying? He learned 13 slashes after watching a dozen times. Desperado regarded Huang Yulei incredulously. I suspect that he was hiding his real ability in the beginning. He must have always known 13 slashes, otherwise it was impossible for him to learn in such a short amount of time, said Huang Yulei. That is very likely. Desperado nodded and looked to the Colosseum. The fight had begun. Zhu had a special way to twist joints. Once grabbed by him, his opponent would immediately be put out of action because of the pain. Of course, in a simulated fight there was no pain involved. However, Zhu's grappling was still very handy on someone weaker than him. As the fight began, Zhu immediately approached Han Sen. The reason why Huang Yulei asked Zhu to kick Han Sen's ass, in addition to their close relationship, was that Zhu's specialty allowed him to disable Han Sen and force Han Sen to surrender. The most humiliating way of losing in a simulated fight was undoubtedly to surrender. After all, one could never die in the simulated fight, so everyone would want to fight until the end instead of giving in. Crack. Han Sen's right hand, which was holding Zhu's wrist, was immediately dislocated by this flick. Zhu's left hand then wound around Han Sen's right arm and put his shoulder out. With his wrist and shoulder both dislocated, Han Sen had lost all movability of his right arm. If they were in reality, only the pain would make Han Sen scream. However, this was just a simulated fight. Han Sen was not significantly hurt and was only taken off 7% from his health. Seeing Han Sen trying to retreat, Zhu immediately followed up. Suddenly, Zhu saw Han Sen grabbing his own right arm with his left hand and put the dislocated joints back to place. Zhu couldn't help frowning. Han Sen was very skilled at it, that he must be someone who had practiced similar skills before. However, Zhu did not pay too much attention to that. Han Sen was so much worse in fitness than Zhu that even if Han Sen had practiced diversion, he would not be able to compare to Zhu. Zhu threw himself at Han Sen one more time. The two were 10 points apart in their fitness index. Even if Han Sen wanted to run away, it could not be done. Without moving a muscle, Han Sen's heart suddenly started to beat much stronger and faster than a normal person's. Motivated by the heartbeat, the cayenne blood in his body started to flow at a high speed, pushing Han Sen's fitness to a high level. Although Han Sen's fitness index was still lower than 30, but his strength and speed must be around 28. Indeed, he was faking it. His fitness level is not that low. Huang Yulei exclaimed when he saw Han Sen's speed and strength got much better. Watching Han Sen, Desperado remained silent. He felt Han Sen's behaviors were strange, but he could not tell how so. Han Sen and Zhu were once again at each other's throat. Although Han Sen had used Heresy Mantra to enhance his fitness level, he was still much less stronger than Zhu. In addition, Zhu's grappling and diversion techniques were both much better than Han Sen's. Therefore, Han Sen was still at an absolute disadvantage. Han Sen's arms were dislocated by Zhu a couple more times, but he survived each time using Ghost Hunt and the disordered footwork of the White Jade Skeleton. No way. There is no way he could learn diversion from Zhu. Huang Yulei shook his head and denied his own speculation. Diversion was much more demanding on the user than 13 slashes. One must lay the foundation since little. He had hardly heard someone could succeed starting as an adult. Huang Yulei did not believe that Han Sen could learn diversion during this fight, as he did not even believe that Han Sen learned 13 slashes on the spot when fighting himself. As the fight continued, Huang Yulei's face became stiff. Indeed, Han Sen was making incredible progress. He could clearly sense that his opponent was getting better at grappling so fast that it frightened him. Zhu Zhu found that there was little he could do against this opponent. Although he was still at an advantage, it was hard for him to beat Han Sen. A soldier on warship was like a soldier in opponent's territory, fighting fearless and looking death calmly in the face. And he could do nothing to the soldier, but watch him getting stronger and stronger. Huang Yulei's pupils contracted as he saw Zhu Zhu's arm broken at a flick of Han Sen's wrist. Zhu Zhu was shocked as well. He did not expect his opponent could really use diversion well. Zhu Zhu still did not believe Han Sen could have learned everything in such a short amount of time. I know why I would feel bad when beating him, exclaimed Desperado suddenly. He was copying my moves. When he fought me, he did the same thing. No wonder I felt bad. He wanted to beat me with my own techniques. After watching Zhu Zhu and Han Sen's fight, Desperado finally understood why he had that feeling. When he was fighting Han Sen, although Han Sen used a seemingly disordered footwork, it was not the root of his discomfort. He was upset because Han Sen wanted to use his own moves against him. Because Han Sen lost too fast, Desperado thought it was a coincidence that the guy practiced the same type of martial arts. Now thinking back, it was not at all a coincidence. Han Sen was copying him on purpose. When Zhu Zhu clawed Han Sen's chest, Han Sen dislocated Zhu Zhu's wrist with a shrug. Then he quickly threw himself at Zhu Zhu. At this point, Han Sen had edited Ghost Haunt with Zhu Zhu's techniques, so it was now even stronger than diversion. Locked down by Han Sen, Zhu Zhu found him unable to divert Han Sen's force since Han Sen's haunting techniques prevented him from doing that. Unable to wriggle free, Zhu Zhu had to surrender and end the game. Having learned the tricks of diversion, Han Sen was exhilarated. He stopped looking for other opponents but left Gladiator. As he still remembered everything, he decided to practice diversion a bit more. After Han Sen left the training hall, he felt extremely sore. Blue veins stood out all over his body, which looked frightening. Han Sen knew that it was because he had used heresy mantra for too long, which was a heavy burden on his body. Had his heart and veins not been strengthened during the first phase of heresy mantra, his organs would probably have exploded. Even after the enhancement, his body still couldn't stand the tremendous burden. At this time, Han Sen became so exhausted that he could barely stand. He originally wanted to practice diversion a bit more, but could no longer do that. News was playing in the training hall, most of which was about God's sanctuary, such as someone had gone to the fourth God's sanctuary, someone had become a demigod, and someone had become a sacred blood aristocrat. After watching a while, Han Sen's attention was suddenly caught by a specific message. It was a short story read by the anchor, which was soon drowned in many similar stories. However, Han Sen suddenly became excited. The news was about the Glory Shelter in First God's Sanctuary. Someone found a strong sacred blood creature in the mountains near Glory Shelter. Almost the entire Glory Shelter teamed up to hunt the creature, but they were not even able to hurt it, even at the cost of many lives. Han Sen found the comments on this matter from people in Glory Shelter. Because many of them had seen the sacred blood creature, their description of it was rather clear. It was a turtle-like creature, dark as ink and large as a car. Its body was so stiff that even sacred blood weapons could not scratch its shell. Many people died in its teeth. The huge turtle was not fast, otherwise more people might have died. Many believed that this black turtle was even stronger than a sacred blood crystal-shelled turtle, and should be the strongest turtle creature that people had ever witnessed in First God's Sanctuary. Many people described the fighting scene, which convinced Han Sen that it was very likely to be a super creature. According to people from Glory Shelter, the black turtle was obviously much stronger than a typical sacred blood creature. No sacred blood weapons could hurt it, and its only weakness was its speed. Otherwise, more than half of the Glory Shelter would die there. Brother, you spent a long time using the holographic device and you are soaked. Keep hydrated. Someone suddenly appeared next to Han Sen, throwing a bottle of water to him. To his surprise, it was Jing Jia. Jing Jia had been waiting for Han Sen to challenge him proactively, but nothing had happened in days. Jing Jia realized that Han Sen was much more mature than he thought, completely unaffected by the rumors. However, Jing Jia was not someone who would easily give up. Getting the message that Han Sen was in the training hall, he quickly came over and waited for Han Sen there. In fact, he had been here for quite a while. After Han Sen came out from the device, he was sitting near Jing Jia, but Jing Jia did not come to him right away. The freshman first went to purchase 2 bottles of water before he sat down next to Han Sen. Relax, I did not poison the water, said Jing Jia with a smile. The younger brother of Jing Jiwu would not use that kind of scheme. Han Sen's words made Jing Jia pause. The freshman did not realize that Han Sen would have such respect for his older brother. If you are not willing to accept my challenge, then I will have to use some dirty tricks even if I don't want to. Such as? Han Sen took another sip of water and asked, I know that your mom's name is Luo Sulan and the shelter she belonged to in Second God's Sanctuary, and you have a sister named Han Yan. She is very cute and studies. Jing Jia always had a faint smile on his face and looked harmless. When girls saw him, their hearts would race. Hearing Jing Jia's words, Han Sen smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Jing Jia, if you want to threaten someone, you'll have to be smart. When you speak, try to act like a tough guy so that I might be scared. Jing Jia's face became grim. He said, brother, I am not joking. Leaning against the back of his chair, Han Sen stretched and said slowly, since you have investigated my family, you should know who I am. Do you dare to touch them? Now tell me again you're not joking. Jing Jia smiled and said, brother, you're right. I do not dare to touch your family, but your friends might not be as lucky. I don't dare to do anything to Wang Mingmeng or Lu Meng either, but Xi Jiking and Zhang Yang were under no one's protection. I would be interested to know how you plan to hurt them in Black Hawk, said Han Sen. Jing Jia was still smiling. It will not be easy for me to injure them on campus, and it's gonna be a waste of time to hurt their family. But do you think I could seduce their girlfriends? You think I'm going to succeed? Jing Jia, there are things that you should never do, replied Han Sen solemnly. Whether Jing Jia could succeed or not, he will not let it happen. If you're angry, you can take it out on me during our duel anytime, said Jing Jia with politely. As you wish then. Although Han Sen did not want to waste his time, he no longer wanted to tolerate the kid's provocation. He would take care of what should be taken care of. Jing Jia appeared to be exhilarated. I will be waiting for you. Please keep your words, otherwise. Jing Jia did not finish his sentence, but even an idiot could understand him. Han Sen smiled and said, Jing Jiwu did not teach his brother well, so I will be a good friend and do that for him. Jing Jia was a bit upset hearing that, but he did not talk back. Since Han Sen had agreed to his challenge, all he needed to do was beating Han Sen. The next morning, before Han Sen and Jing Jia got there, the stands around the archery range was packed with audience. Ms. Chen, you're also here to see the duel. Sidu Zhang looked at Chen Ling in surprise. Yes, Han Sen once represented the Martial Arts Society, and I have come to support him, said Chen Ling with a smile. Come and join me. The view is better here. Sidu Zhang brought Chen Ling to the coach's bench. Coach, who do you think he has a better chance, Han Sen or Jing Jia? Chen Ling asked. It is very hard to say. So many things had happened to Han Sen in the recent 2 years, and I can say that Jing Jia has even surpassed his brother, replied Sidu Zhang with a bitter smile. Chen Ling knew what the coach was saying, so she nodded and did not speak again. Han Sen's roommates also came to cheer him up, and Wang Mingmeng came with them as well. However, the stands were so full they had to watch on their feet. Can Han Sen win? That Jing Jia kid is quite something, said Xi Jiking with his brows knitted. He had seen Jing Jia's match and the kid was indeed quite talented. Han Sen, there is something that I should probably tell you beforehand. Jing Jia walked over to Han Sen and said with a smile. If you want to tell me, then tell me, said Han Sen casually. Jing Jia smiled and said nothing. He walked to the bow rack, took a 16.0 practice bow, and a quiver full of arrows, and returned to Han Sen. The next second, Jing Jia straightened his back, knocked an arrow, and made a shot casually. That was only a start. He then quickly shot 9 more arrows, between which there was almost no gap. The 10 arrows were like a straight line, flying toward the target 60 feet away. Students were dumbstruck. If it was very hard to believe that with a 16.0 arrow, Jing Jia was able to shoot a succession of 10 arrows. His strength was beyond their imagination. He is indeed even stronger than Jing Jiwu at his age, mumbled Sidu Zhang. Chen Ling was also amazed. Among the unevolved, very few people had this kind of strength, not to mention Jing Jia was just a freshman. Jing Jia used a 16.0 bow to shoot a succession of 10 arrows, 9 of which were spinning. Judging from the way that the arrows were aligned, she knew that Jing Jia was already an archery master. Monster, a monster more formidable than Jing Jiwu was, lamented Sidu Zhang. She had hoped that Han Sen would win, but did not have much faith after watching Jing Jia's performance. Han Sen's most impressive skill was spinning arrow, with which he beat Jing Jiwu. However, Jing Jia seemed to be even better at that, and he even had a higher fitness index than his older brother. What do you think my spinning arrow, brother? Jing Jia asked, amused. Jing Jia, it is quite impressive for your age. Good job, said Han Sen in appreciation. He did appreciate what Jing Jia could do. Although Jing Jia had not practiced Yin Yang Blast, he managed to achieve the effect of the spinning arrow by practicing archery techniques alone. Hearing Han Sen's words, Jing Jia felt belittled. At your age, it sounded like he was a kid trying to impress his parents with a golden star awarded by school. The students were surprised by Han Sen's choice of bow. He picked an 11.0 practice bow, which was too weak for any archery student. Anyone could easily use a bow like this. Han Sen seems to be overly confident. Seeing Han Sen's bow, Jing Jia's face darkened. He could no longer keep up his good manners and asked sharply, brother, are you really going to use the bow? Can't I? Han Sen said quietly. Sure. Jing Jia took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He walked away from Han Sen and stopped when they were 220 feet apart. Jing Jia turned back and said to Han Sen with a smile, "You beat my brother at this distance. How about we have the duel under the same condition?" Jing Jia had thought about this a long time ago. He wanted to avenge his brother at the same distance. "As you like," said Han Sen indifferently. "Coach Sidu Xiang, would you do the honor and blow the whistle?" Jing Jia asked Sidu Xiang with a smile. Sidu Xiang nodded, gave a pause, and blew her neck whistle. All eyes were on Han Sen and Jing Jia. The moment the whistle was blown, Jing Jia shot the exact same succession of 10 arrows at Han Sen. Because the bow was strong, the 10 arrows were in Han Sen's face in no time. Jing Jia knew very well that although the 10 arrows seemed to be aligned, they would scatter into a storm in Han Sen's face and block every direction, thanks to the spinning techniques. Jing Jia had worked hard on spinning arrow in order to beat Han Sen this way. Han Sen saw what Jing Jia did, but only shot one arrow in a languid manner. It seemed that he did not even pull the string to the fullest, and he did not make a second shot either. Putting the bow down, Han Sen stood there and watched. Looks like Han Sen has given up. He didn't even want to win. No wonder he picked an 11.0 bow. The genius has fallen. Even Jing Jia was dumbstruck by Han Sen's attitude. He wanted to beat Han Sen, but not like this. Such a loser and such terrible skills. What point would he be making even if he could beat Han Sen? It would probably bring his brother Jing Jia more shame. If Jing Jia had lost to a genius, Jing Jia could accept it. However, it seemed that Jing Jia had lost to a scum. Han Sen, on the other hand, was very satisfied with the shot he made. The power of the spinning arrow did not lie in its speed or strength, but how it span. Although Jing Jia's spinning arrow seemed impressive, in Han Sen's eyes, those arrows were barely spinning. Jing Jia's arrow did not move aside, but was leaning toward Han Sen's arrow like it was a magnet. Bang! The two arrows clashed. Han Sen's slow arrow knocked Jing Jia's away and then became faster. Bang bang bang. Han Sen's arrow clashed successively with all 10 arrows shot by Jing Jia and knocked all 10 away. Its strength was not weakened but enhanced after the cracking sounds. Whoosh! The arrow ended up on Jing Jia's chest. Taking the hit, Jing Jia staggered back a few steps and fell to the ground. Jing Jia looked down at the arrow on his chest incredulously with his mouth gaping. Silence fell on the entire range. No one anticipated this result. No one could believe that an effortless shot made by Han Sen using an 11.0 practice bow could carry such miraculous power. Han Sen walked to Jing Jia, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Jing Jia, if you want to learn the real spinning arrow, come find me when you have time. I'll teach you." Then Han Sen took down the practice arrow on Jing Jia's chest and put it back in the quiver. Putting the bow back on the rack, Han Sen left the range. Jing Jia watched Han Sen leave and sat there like death. The genius is the genius. This is what spinning arrow really looks like. I know it was not that easy to mimic the genius. It seems Jing Jia just learned some tricks and did not master the skill. Awesome. Han Sen never took Jing Jia seriously. He did so well with just an 11.0 practice bow. Imagine what he can do if he had picked a 16.01. That will be all for now. I hope you find this story interesting. Leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss the next part of this story. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.